All right, so here we go. I want to welcome you to this conversation of the productive soul, which we're going to address. I'm going to jump right into it. How to do lists could be hurting your productivity and what to do instead. Now, from a topic of conversation, this makes sense. I think this is a little bit magnetic in the sense that, yeah, some people are using to-do lists on any given day and feel like, oh my gosh, I'm on top of the world. I can check things off my to-do list. However, what if, you knew or realized that actually using that to-do list, the way that you're using it could really be hurting your productivity and even be adding stress to your life, right? Which is always even more frightening because that has to do with health and we all want to be our healthiest selves when we're working on things. All right, so that said, I'm going to switch gears and share for those of you who are watching this and you're inside the 24-Hour Blueprint Academy and you're going through the modules. This subject matter and what I'm going to be walking through is also relevant for you because these go hand in hand. At some point, depending on what stage you're in, you are looking at you're looking at documents and you're trying to figure out, well, how does this document work in your 24-Hour Blueprint playbook? And you want to know, like, yeah, how does this work, right? And there's a section, if you remember the model of the 24-Hour Blueprint, there's 4 stages. Let me just show you what those are. One moment. You've already seen I want to walk you through this again, right? The 24-Hour Blueprint lifestyle design model consists of getting you from a place of extreme unsatisfaction, which of course includes the stress, the frustration, the anxiety, and moves you in this direction of assessment and addressing what's going on, and then accessing your calendar, and then accelerating things, right? And then that leads to extreme satisfaction, a stress-free, happy experience, and of course, some peace. All right. And that emerges from having control of your life, right? The sense of having control and creating certainty. All right. So where does what I'm sharing with you fall? So I'm going to show you through a few things. So you already have a document that, is your playbook that walks you through all of this. Where I'm going to get to right now is going to be this particular area. Let me grab my drawing utensil here. We're going to talk about acceleration, right? So this is like the 4th stage. So at this level of acceleration, there are behaviors, there are patterns, there are things that you've done and continue to do just continue to do without really thinking about it because you just feel like it works. One of those things that you do is create to-do lists, right? And so I'm going to give you an illustration of why it's unproductive or could be unproductive for you and why it can be hurting your productivity, hurting your productivity, right? And then leading to stress when you feel like, oh man, I'm not as productive as I could be. Where does the time go, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so you ready? All right, here we go. So I want you to think about this. So in your mind, I'm just going to, again, do my brain thing, right? In your mind, you have an idea, okay? And so that idea happens and you say, oh yeah, let me write that down, okay? So then you have this to-do list, right, where that you create and you write things down, right? So I'm gonna just make a few holes, just switch toggles, or I'm sorry, checking off or filling it in. So you write your first thing, you write your second thing, you write your third thing. Maybe you have a list that goes all the way down, right, to like 13 things, let's just say, right? All right, so you write it all out. And now let's just say, it's now Monday, okay? Okay, so here's what happens with your to-do list. So you get to your to-do list and you say, oh, I'm going to, start tackling this to-do list, right? And so you start working on it. And then what happens is you check off the first thing and you're like, woohoo, I'm done, right? And you check off the second thing, woohoo, I'm done. You check off the third thing, woohoo, I'm done. Excuse me. And you get excited, right? And what happens is that once your to-do list is done, you crumble it up and you then do what? You throw it away, right? And this to-do list may be a to-do list that you carry throughout the whole week, right? Until, Friday. And then, at that point it looks a little scraggly and you create another one and, off you go. Okay. All right. So, but here's where the productivity starts to suffer. The productivity starts to suffer because of this. And then in the next video, in the next talk we're going to have, I'm going to share with you like the technical part of how the 25 blueprint kind of like works to save you from this mistake. So, you when you have your to-do list originally created, and you're starting to check off stuff, you feel great. You feel like, oh man, I got one more thing off my list. I got one more thing off my list. But there's something that happens whenever you get something off of your list. And I want you to think about it like this. So let's say, you know how, well, in this day and age, right, there's actually doctor's notes is still needed, both in school and in professional work environments. But I recently had to schedule a doctor's visit, right? Okay, so here's what happened. I just want you to think about the task, right? The life of a task, okay? On a to-do list, okay? So what happened was I had to, visit doctor, right? So let's say on my to-do list, I just had, hey, visit doctor, okay? Now, what actually happened? So let's say I said, oh, I visited the doctor. I'm going to cross that off my list. Woohoo, I'm done, right? And now I have this false sense of completion, right? Like, oh man, one less thing to do. I saw the doctor. And let's just say I saw the doctor on a Monday, right? Oh man, I saw the doctor. Well, that actually is a rough situation to be in, because what actually really needs to happen is you saw the doctor, but based on what I needed to go in, annual checkup sort of thing, and have some questions addressed as far as health was concerned. I know that I realize now, right, that after you visit the doctor, that doctor is going to run some tests. In this case, they did some blood work and all that. And I know that by Thursday or Friday, right, I need to talk to the doctor about results, right? And after I have that talk, I might have questions, right? So I might actually need to say, hey, look, I also have questions. Um, yeah, well, technically I'll have questions, right? I need to talk to the doctor and I need to technically ask questions, okay? Okay. And what I also know is that I need to confirm leave, this is sort of like a leave request form, right? Like if based on health concerns is, you have to complete a form that then you then take and address, whatever corporate entity you're contracted with or working with. So I need to confirm leave form, terms and conditions. I'm just going to say CON. Okay, you get the idea, right? Okay, so let's really think this through. My original checklist, where I was pre-celebrating, just had visit doctor. Woo-hoo! But the issue is that visit doctor wasn't enough, right? What I technically need to do is have visit doctor, right? Prepare questions, because there might be some questions that I have after the visit, right? or maybe even before, prepare questions, right? And I need to also confirm time for talking to the doctor, right? Because after he runs his labs and all that, him and I got to talk, right? And then, of course, I get to ask my questions, ask. And then there is confirming terms and conditions, right? Making a note that I'm going to confirm terms and conditions. So you notice, I want to highlight this. At first, all I had on the list was just visit doctor, woohoo! And that was the false sense of completion, because what was going to happen was that I was setting myself up for the overwhelm when Thursday came and the doctor would have called me and I would be unprepared to ask the questions, to confirm the leave of absence, or it wouldn't happen. Terms and conditions of a leave of absence form. And then by Friday, right, I would have realized like, oh, wow, I forgot to do this and that. That causes a certain amount of stress and discomfort. And on and on. And now I'm like, oh man, Friday, oh man, maybe he's not in the office on Friday. Now I have to call like Monday. Now I really got some problems. I really am frustrated with myself. Now I'm really disappointed with myself. Right? So this is how to-do lists hurt you, because you create a to-do list, but you're only stopping at step one, like one step. And what really needs to happen is your to-do list needs to have all the steps that you're going to be taking. If it doesn't have all the steps that you're going to be taking, you're going to have a problem. Now, you might already start thinking like, damn, if I start putting in all the steps, I'm going to get overwhelmed. You damn right you are. Yeah, you are. So then that means that to-do lists, you have to do away with to-do lists to a certain extent. You have to have a certain system where all these actions are noted. And so all these actions inside of the 24-hour blueprint playbook, there's a way that all these actions get noted, where by the day and by specific time, you get to really architect the entire journey of this to-do list all the way to whatever, of course, the week ends on a Saturday, right? Where all these steps that you've seen here and that you see, of course, noted here, where they get all laid out in real time, right? So now I hope you now get like, oh, wow, I've been, prematurely celebrating my to-do list and having things checked off, not really taking into consideration or taking inventory of what one action. And we're just looking at one action, guys. We are just looking at one action on your to-do list that's got like just 3 or 4 steps to it. Not to mention other things in your to-do list that actually might have more than that, right? And then accounting for that. So now you start to see like, oh, your to-do list actually might be like premature, like as in it's too short. And if it's too short and it needs, you need like two pages or 3 pages of a to-do list, now you're in overwhelm mode. Therefore, you now need a system to manage all those small micro tasks that you need to be on top of in order for you to sort of have that peace of mind that I talked about a moment ago, right? Remember how I described this section over here, right? Let me use my annotation again. You get the idea now that this whole thing is the goal. And if your to-do lists are too short, you're still going to end up back over here because you're going to find yourself behind the 8 ball, even though you have a to-do list set up, right? And where we really want to be going is in this direction. And so in the next session, I'm going to share how to now go from making that, instead of that to-do list, how to create a system where all the tasks that are associated with an item that you might have just put on your to-do list and just crossed off and said, woohoo, now you're going to create a system that allows you to manage all the subtasks that comes with it, right? Because the task is like an organic piece of your life, right? It has life to it, right? Every task has like two to three or four, sometimes five things that needs to be done after it's been crossed off the list, right? We got to be able to account for that. And that's how we account for the acceleration that's needed to get you to this place of extreme satisfaction and happiness and peace and that sense of control in your life. Okay.